Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. This is the fourth part on the little series I'm doing about pivoting out of the what I call the global empire of bullshit. And just to remind people who've just joined, so this is the end of a long series, and what we're dealing with essentially is that we have our systems, as far as we can tell, in deep capture, whereby the intelligence agencies infiltrated. I mean, certainly they seem to control the leadership, they seem to have infiltrated the press, but also the police. They seem to have placed essentially gang stalking networks everywhere that are harassing people and attacking them with directed energy weapons and many, many other horrific things. And currently the situation in our society seems to be that the entirety of our society, of our leaders, seem to be essentially as good as in deep capture. And for the victims of the intelligence agencies, the situation is particularly urgent because they're essentially dying. They are being shot into with military microwave weapons. And they have horrific experiments done to them to do with mapping out the brain. I don't really want to get into the big details now, because they're horrific, first of all. I really want to focus on what to do about it, but that's the reality. These are follow-on experiments from the death camp experiments in the concentration camps. The actual, these Nazi controlling the human being sort of experiments. And it's horrific. I mean, I'm one of the victims as well, but I think my experience, because I've been openly assaulted for, inverted commas, just a year. So I have, microwave beams shot into me, not just every hour, but every couple of minutes. And I'm also shot at whilst I'm giving this talk. But it still pales in comparison with what has been done to other victims. Some of them have been targeted and assaulted and maimed and turned upon for decades, sometimes their entire life. So, this is the horrific situation where essentially the intelligence agencies, as far as I can tell, committing crimes against humanity, and continuing to do so despite public appeals, despite court cases, despite appeals to cease and desist. You can see my own appeals being ignored on my Twitter, on my YouTube. It's all public for everybody to see, and my the assaults against me continue. So we're now trying to think of what to do. And in the previous videos I've already explained, and please watch the previous episodes of this global pivot out of what I call the empire of bullshit. And it's not quite as flippantly as you think, because I think this is exactly what it is. It's a runaway process whereby essentially the most corrupt and the dumbest in our society have essentially been placed into the upper parts of the leadership, and everybody with high integrity and actual skill seem to have ended up on the bottom. And once you have the situation, of course, everybody who's corrupt and everybody who doesn't really have any skill is scared of losing their position, right? Because for obvious reasons. So, what are we going to do about it? And in my previous video, I already proposed that actually the situation doesn't look like this. Our entire system has slid down several levels, and the people who are here are not actually here. Sometimes we have entrepreneurs and doctors who should be actually leading, teams, but they have been, first of all, stopped from doing that by corrupt individuals, but it's even worse than that, because they've been pushed down by these gang stalking networks that are being operated, right? So they are pushed one level down by the handlers, and they're also exposed to severe levels of criminality. Now, essentially they are below even the criminals that are, part of the gang stalking networks who come into homes, who poison people. Even they are placed higher than the victims, who have very high integrity. So what actually happened in our society is that, as far as the victims are concerned, there are certain victims who are now entirely at the mercy of this corrupt layer that has been interposed between them and actual real society. So as far as, for example, in my case, I can't leave the house without being shot in the head by now. Inside my home, I can't be pain-free because they shoot through the walls and they are targeting me. And these criminals are paid, right? They are criminals, so they're one level below our society, but they get paid and I do not. So I am now effectively even one layer below. So what I'm saying to the victims is, what we have to do with you is get you out of this quagmire, and we have to place you back to where you belong in society, which is, you know, here. Because you essentially have high integrity. That's why you're one of the people who are targeted, and you are very intelligent, right? Or there's something about you that, you know, they really want to stop. And in actual fact, you're much more than that. You're even much higher than that. You're up here. Because what you actually went through is essentially, you know, it makes the Navy SEAL training just pale in comparison. You've been essentially to hell and back every single day, sometimes for decades, right? So you are not even here. You are something very special. If you're still alive, please don't kill yourself, because you're one of the most precious people. You must be hard as a diamond by now. So we have to put you back to where you are, where you belong in society. How are we going to do that? So what we're going to do, because this is the situation now, essentially, is we're going to lift you out bit by bit, right? We're going to place you here, and then eventually you will have a prominent role in society when a lot of people start listening to you. But first we have to lift you out and put you back here, right? Because I put you one layer above, you know, standards. So first of all, you have to go above the gang stalkers. This is just the bottom rung of society, you know, one level up from the criminals. These are the people who just essentially exist, you know. They don't really do very much. But you have to climb one level higher, because you have to help me and other people and other victims to actually cycle the system. So we're going to cycle the system by placing you here, and then it's your job to actually move up and help us. Okay, how are we going to do this? So this is how we're slowly recapturing the system and trying to, you know, do the system cycle. So I explained the system cycle much better in another video, where you can actually see how low down this entire system is, and then I explain how we place people there. But concretely, how are we going to do this concretely? And there are two classes of people now. There's number one, the victims, and there are non-victims. The non-victims could be family members. It could be professionals who assist the victims. They're doctors, they're lawyers, police officers to whom these crimes are reported, or external parties who are not directly involved. They are not directly the doctors of these victims, but they still want to help because they realize that these are crimes against humanity and they are expanding. These are people who you know, can help us. So they can be either outside the government system, so even inside the government system, right? What we're essentially trying to do is restore society, repair society. So for the victims, there will be certain things. Hang on, how high can I go? So there will be one set of things to do for victims. Okay, and then there will be another set of things. How far can I go? For others who are trying to, you know, to assist. So point number one, in lifting people out from here, what we have to do, number one, is restore their finances and restore their standing in society. So I would say, point number one, right, for the victims, you have to go public. We need to know who you are. We need to hear your story. If you just make a blog, if you just make, you know, Twitter's kind of disjointed, but if you make a blog, a Facebook page, or you just make a brief video about yourself, literally, I've got the cheapest video camera that exists. Just plug it into a laptop and make a very short video of yourself. Explain what happened to you, explain who you are, and explain where you would like to be placed back. You know, if you have a business that was destroyed and you want to restart that business, tell us. If you've been ejected from a type of job, say you were a nurse and you want to become a nurse again, tell us, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be by the end of 2017? And of course, you want to have all attacks against you stop, but let us know what they have done to you. Have you been stalked? Have you been irradiated, robbed? What do we need to do to restore you to where you would be naturally? So that's number one. Here, for the victims, go public, and then essentially do that, and then tell us where you want to be. Okay? So where do you want to be placed? Back as a nurse? What would you like to to be able to do again, because that's what is going to be your goal. By the end of 2017, we want you to be there. This is essentially the plan. By the end of 2017, these programs have to be shut down, and you have to be where you want to be. So, today is the 16th of January, we don't have much time, we better get going. How are we going to restore your finances? Well, number 2 that you're going to do is open a crowdfunding website and tell people about it, right? We should collect all the crowdfunding websites, and then you say, I'm collecting money for, either to pay my subsistence because these people have destroyed my income opportunities, or to launch my business if you still have a job but you want to do what you were prevented from doing. And then you use crowdfunding here. Meanwhile, the others who are not victims themselves, what I want you to do is essentially here, collect them, so pick up on it, collect all the essentially the profiles and the links and so on, right? So collect links, profiles, follow Twitter, because these victims are now our job in society. Follow their Twitter account, follow their YouTube account, and so on. And then when they have their crowdfunding, it is your job, because you were never affected by this. It is, you could say, oh, why should I pay money to somebody else? It's because we're cycling society. If you want to improve society, we start with the people who are essentially the hardiest. They have gone through hell, right? We'll restore them. And we'll do, by the way, the same thing for people who essentially have been broken down with child abuse, and the children as well, who have suffered this. If the courts can't pay compensation, it is essentially our public duty that we pay. Our taxes have been mismanaged, and our currencies are collapsing, but there are ways to get our money back. Don't worry, and women like Karen Hudis are working on that. We're now cycling our society, but we have to, as far as I'm concerned, what I'm working on is essentially helping people back, right? Lifting them back out of this misery, and I need your help. So what we're going to do the next couple of years, just say, well, if you're paying, 20 euros per month for your mobile phone subscription, how much would you pay per month to actually restore society, but in a transparent way so that you control where the money goes? Well, decide on a sum. What can you spare, right? Can you spare, 2 coffees per week? Would you invite 2 victims per week for coffee? Well, a coffee in London, last time I was there, was £2.50 at least, right? £250. So 4 weeks, right, per month, you've got £5 per month. Can you give £5 per month to a cause? Sorry, £10 per month. I've briefly lost it. £10 per month. Would you be willing to, give £10 per month to a cause? Right? It's like paying literally 2 coffees per week to repair society. Are you willing to pay £50 per month? Your expenditure, and if you have ludicrously high expenditure and you're about to buy yourself a yet even bigger plasma TV, just have a look at how much cheaper can you get the plasma TV, and then the difference you can invest in society. There are many, many ways to think about it, but essentially, this is what we have to do, is essentially fund them. Either fund them ourselves or help raise money. I'm sorry, I should just say. Right? This is what we're doing. You either fund them yourself. If you don't have the money, you help to raise money. How do you help to raise money? Well, you can tweet, you can blog about it, you can say, please, please, everybody, you can tweet and blog this, the crowdfunding websites at other people. You can let them know that this is going on, and so on and so on. So this is how we're going to restore the finances, right? So that is just one step, right? The second thing is restoring the reputation. This is finances. What about the reputation? Well, what we'll do is, first of all, we'll put together, for the victims, and this is done by others, and also other victims as well. So this is something that we'll do together. So this is essentially finances, and this is now reputation, because these people have been smeared as mad. So what we're going to do, and this is going to be important for later as well, we will put together, and this is done by others, you know, whistleblowers, experts, professionals, and victims together. We have to make information packs. And these information packs are to be given to doctors, who the victims might see, but also police officers, because the police officers still seem to have a protocol of just stamping everybody as mentally ill who just dares to come forward. Well, this is not the state to continue. The short answer is, as far as I can tell, right, 70% of the victims, or the vast majority, seem to be female. Now, typically people are smeared with schizophrenia and paranoia. Those are mental health diseases or issues that essentially are 60% male. So that explanation doesn't fit. Also, a lot of the psychiatrists never learned about voice to skull, never took that into account, never took into account that there might be a non-medical explanation for it, because they themselves couldn't possibly imagine the rampant, widespread amount of criminality in the intelligence agencies. No one could have actually reasonably guessed that or believed that. You know, I understand you can't believe it, but you have to remember, if you're a psychiatrist or medic, what you can or cannot believe has no bearing on reality. So you have to take these information packs, and for that we have to combine expert testimonies with whatever, you know, the victims are saying. We have to go through and actually explain to the public what is happening. Now, these information packs will be used to restore your reputation. Also, I forgot to say, family and friends, right? Because sometimes family and friends also don't believe victims. So all of that is going to be used for that. And then this is going to lead on to essentially make put together sample court bundles. Okay, and this is very important, because this is leading up to the next step, which also has to do with your finances and reputation, which is mounting court cases. And I'm serious about it. Yes, we will mount court cases, because these are crimes against humanity, either individually or together. We will do this. So that is the that part. For the court bundles, what I have got in mind, and this is now where the victims and others can, you know, both contribute. What I would like to see is that victims, those who are comfortable, only those who are comfortable with this, if you would be willing to have essentially write up your victim testimony, you know, who you are, what happened to you, you know, maybe with your contact details, address is very sensitive, so that should only actually be, you know, made public if someone is actually using that for a court case. But you can put out sample victim testimonies where you say you are willing to testify in court that this is also something that happened to you, to support another victim's case. So those victims who are very comfortable with coming forward, it would really help us if you write up your own victim testimony. Okay, and I should put out a sample of what I mean by that, right? But this is the end goal here. Why? Because it's when you put many victim testimonies of credible sources, of people of high integrity, who are willing to put their name and essentially the name to this statement and say under oath, yes, this is what happened to me. If you put those things together, then you can actually see that the offenses are repeating. There's a program. And for example, many people had break-ins, a lot of people were poisoned, a lot of people had their car tampered with, electronics damaged, valuables stolen, gang stalking, the lot, you know. But if you put many together, and totally independent people from all across the country or from across other countries are saying the same thing, that has got a high value in court. And this is very good, because we're still up against having to somehow explain to a judge what is sometimes classified technology, which we have to reverse engineer, right? But no one can expect you, you know, to then reverse engineer classified technology by yourself. I believe that a judge should also be able to, I think in the civil courts, I think there are different layers. I think in criminal courts you have to essentially prove beyond doubt, or something like that. Dear lawyers, please forgive me if I smudge now the differences. But in civil courts, which is where this would happen, it has to be on the balance of probabilities. Now, the intelligence agencies have shown to the world what incredible amount of lying, sometimes perjury and criminality they are capable of. So, what's the probability they're going to do it again? I don't think a judge will necessarily take that much convincing, but you have to convince them of the details of what happened to you, that is actually reasonable. And when you look at many, many victim statements, and they're all the same, and all of them with horrific physical injuries, it's pretty clear to a judge, and we will be watching the judges, I assure you. There will be thousands of people watching the judges and making sure that no nonsense happens in court, right? These will be highly, highly, highly public court cases, and we will take care of that. So, your victim testimonies, but every single victim, even if you're not happy to put your victim story out there, that's okay. What this is meant to be is take the people who are in a position where they are comfortable enough, and you pick which of those victim testimonies fits your situation, so that you can take those and take it to a judge and say, listen, this is what happened to me, it matches 1-to-1, or this aspect, is common, that aspect is totally standard amongst victims, and you can take that to a judge. This is why I want essentially a collection of public victim testimonies, and then I would suggest that the address, the details for a court case, if you're a witness, you have to reveal that. But then somebody who wants to use your documentation in a court case can say, look, this is my lawyer, or this is my court case, I've got a court number, please send your details to the court, with the name and address. And then you've got a certain way of certifying that it's not just a shill, an agent misusing the revelation of your address. But then again, if you're a targeted individual yourself, you do know that the agencies have your name and address, right? Because they're harassing you. So, anyway, but you don't necessarily want to put it out on the web, and that's okay too. So there are mechanisms we can do that. So that will be the victim testimonies. And what I also would like to have from the others, whistleblowers, professionals, experts, and other things, essentially expert testimonies here. And I would like you to also, those who are happy to assist the stopping of crimes against humanity, to essentially, can you read that? To essentially put these things up online, right? So that other victims can refer back to it. So standard things about the technology, like if you're a microwave weapon expert, yes, these are the things that can be done with weapons, these are the typical symptoms, and so on and so on. So, if you put that out there and you're willing to appear in court as an expert witness, please write it up. If you're a doctor and you dealt with many, many cases of targeted individuals, victims of the intelligence agencies, you know about microwave injuries, you have maybe seen cases, or you have read up about them, and you can tell with your expert knowledge as a doctor that yes, this is precisely what you would expect. Please write us a testimony. Please, you can either get together with specific victims who you trust are genuine and put out what you can say and certify about that, if you're willing to appear as an expert witness. We all have to keep in mind that what the intelligence agencies are doing is infiltrate everything. So they will try to shove fake victims in our faces, and they have been doing that for decades, sometimes to farm information and to mislead us. And they will also try to shove fake experts into our faces. And this is why what I would like to do is have a collection of expert witnesses, with maybe a brief video about the expert who has written that, with his brief bio, and then ideally there will be the witness or the expert testimony, a brief video about the expert saying, yes, you can use my testimony in your court case, and I'm willing to appear as certifying what I've just said under oath. Right? And then a victim can decide, do I trust this person? Would I like to have this person as my expert witness in court? That would be something that would really, really assist us. And I think there are, by now, these people have attacked so many professionals that these professionals have colleagues, and their colleagues can certainly certify it. And there's nothing stopping an expert who's also victim from, you know, certifying, because it's not like just because someone shoots microwave weapons that you suddenly you lose your ability and all your, you know, decades worth of experience. So it's not like that. So expert testimonies, anybody who was, you know, has got expert knowledge. So this already gets us into a better shape than where we are now. Okay, so victims, please go public. If you're not happy going public, then you probably also won't have a public crowdfunding page. You can maybe have a crowdfunding page for something else. Name it something else, like you want to have, I don't know, some other project in your life. Maybe you say, I would like to start a company, and then collect money for that. That's also okay. You know, label it as something else, but then you can't really, you know, collect money under this program, but maybe you can. Maybe you find ways around that. You know, write up your victim testimony. And that's the other thing to do. For all the others, please, we'll have to collate these. We have to keep an eye on these people. So collect the links, the profiles, follow their Twitter, follow their YouTube, follow them on Facebook, and then help us to raise money or contribute, you know, invest into our future society in a sense. And then if you're an expert, write up expert testimonies. So that's one set. And this is all with the intention of restoring finances and restoring reputations. However, this is not yet how to actually fight the system. And that I would like to put into a separate video because I have to wipe the whiteboard and this video is long enough. So how we're going to cycle the system in detail goes into the next video. So bye for now and watch the second part.